So we're going to start with our vinyl. So I already went ahead and trimmed it to line up with my tumbler. So now I'm just cutting a piece of that paper backing off, and I'm going to line it up and apply it nice and straight to my tumbler here. And I'm going to use my little squeegee tool, just going around, pushing the vinyl down, making sure that I don't have any air bubbles or wrinkles in that. So I'm just using my little vinyl tool here, and I am just going around pressing down firmly to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles. Now in the video you did not see here, I did trim off just a small section of that vinyl so that there is a strip of the stainless steel, which we're going to cover up with glitter later. Now I'm just going to take these pre-cut vinyl strips that I have, and I'm just going to outline the squares on the cup. So I'm going to start by doing my vertical lines first and just go around the cup, making sure that I am lining them up nice and straight. So now for my horizontal lines, I'm of course using our cup chuck, and I'm just going to put my cup on the turner here. This helps make it easier to line up my lines nice and straight. So I'm just going to do my horizontal lines going across over the vertical lines. You don't have to worry about them overlapping. You don't notice it. Just make sure that you trim off the extra edges for the stainless steel. We obviously don't want the extras there. So I'm just going to continue doing this all the way around my cup until all of those squares are outlined. However, I did not add my vinyl stripping to the two edges of where the stainless steel meets, because we are going to add that after we add our paint and our glitter. So where the vinyl outlines the stainless steel, we don't need to outline that just yet. Now I'm just going to take my pop of color paint, and I'm going to color in that stainless section. So I am using this really pretty light pink, and I'm just going to brush that paint on, being careful not to get it too much on the edges of the vinyl. So I'm going to do that stainless section here, and then I'm also going to do the bottom. If you get a little paint on the edge of the vinyl, that's completely fine. This paint is super easy to remove. You can just use your fingernail or just a wet cloth and it'll easily remove. However, we will be covering that up anyway with the tape, so if you get a little over, that's totally fine. You won't notice it. Not shown in the video, I did use my cup edging tool, and I just went around the bottom of my cup just to remove a small section of that vinyl. So I do want to make sure that I'm coloring that in as well when we go to glitter that bottom. You can choose to keep the vinyl all the way to the bottom of the cup. That's up to you. I just wanted to remove it to add a little extra glitter. Now you do want to make sure you let that paint fully dry before we move on to the epoxy. Because we are using the epoxy method to apply the glitter here, I only mixed up just a small amount, just 5 milliliters each part A and B, and then I'm going to just very lightly apply a thin amount of that epoxy over just the paint section. So I don't want to apply it on the vinyl just yet. I'm only going to apply where we painted. The key here with the epoxy method is to not use a lot of epoxy. You just want to make sure that you only really have enough just to lightly cover it. So once you have your paint all covered with the epoxy, we're just going to dump our glitter directly onto the wet epoxy. So I am using this super new pretty color from Peachy Olive that was just released in the January palette, and I really love this pink. However, it was a little bit light for what I wanted. So after I sprinkled this glitter on and I tapped off any of that excess glitter, I did go back over and you'll see here I added just another little bit of epoxy and then another little bit of a darker color glitter. Doing it this way, I did just make sure that I very lightly added just that little bit of epoxy because I didn't want to take off any of the other glitter that I had already applied. So I'm just sprinkling on this other really pretty darker pink, and then I'm just going to lightly pat that down with my fingers just to make sure that it does stick. It's not going to be fully covered with this darker color, which is exactly what I wanted. I just wanted that extra little pop of a darker pink there. Once you have that fully covered, you do just want to tap off any of that excess glitter, and then we're going to let that cure. Once that's cured, I'm just going to mix up 15 milliliters each part A and B epoxy, and then I'm going to start by applying it to my glitter section first because I know that some of that glitter is going to rub off on my gloves, and I don't want that necessarily to transfer to my vinyl, so I'm going to try and avoid that as much as I can by applying it to my glitter section first. Now, don't be fooled, this method is not perfect. You will likely get some glitter transferred over onto your vinyl, but this is such a light color glitter that it really doesn't bother me, and not that much of it transferred over because we did the epoxy method first. You can always, of course, go back in with the tweezers and just kind of pick off any of those stray glitters as well, depending on how many you have. That might be a tedious process, but you definitely can do that as well. Once your epoxy is cured, we're just going to add our vinyl stripping to the bottom of the cup here, just edging that off, and then we're also going to add it to the edge of the glitter just to kind of finish that off. So now we're going to add our decal. So since this is such a tall cup and there is just a narrow space for options for a decal, I just decided to just do this cute little text, and then we're going to just apply that nice and straight to that glitter section on our cup. So again, I'm just using my little squeegee tool here just to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles or wrinkles, and then you can also use a little weeding pen if you do have air bubbles just to pop those as well. So I wanted to add just kind of like a watercolor brushed look to my vinyl. So all that I'm doing here is I'm using the pop-up color, the blush color, and it is very similar in the video you can see to the color vinyl that I chose. However, when we add our epoxy, you'll see that it actually adds quite a bit of dimension and almost like a watercolor look to my vinyl. And you can also use this tip if you need a specific color vinyl that would really go with your cup and you don't have it, you can absolutely paint over that vinyl to get your desired effect. Just make sure you cut out your design first and then paint after. If you do go onto the cup with your paint, like I mentioned earlier, this paint is super duper easy to remove. You can just use your finger or just a little wet rag and it will easily come off of the epoxy. Once you have that colored in, you do want to let that dry for at least 25 minutes. Once that's dry, we're going to add another coat of epoxy. So I did mix up, again, 15 milliliters each part A and B epoxy, and I am just going to apply that over the entire tumbler this time. Now, you'll see when I apply the epoxy how it changes on the vinyl. You can kind of see that brushstroke look, and it does get noticeably darker. So that's just something to keep in mind whenever you are using that paint. So I did decide to add just a little extra glitter on the top of my cup here, just lightly around the edges, partially because when I cut my vinyl cutter that I have did the line through the vinyl, so it was a little bit noticeable. So to cover that up, I added the glitter on top, which I ended up really liking in the end, but that step is entirely up to you. You can add the glitter or not. I just went with a simple, pretty white color to kind of tie everything in. Now, if you chose to add the glitter, you do want to let that cure, and then we will add another coat of epoxy to cover up that glitter as well. Once you add that final coat, you'll just let that cure, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for lots of crafty fun tutorials.